Hello, and welcome to Asian Pacific Voices Radio, where you'll find stimulating conversations around diverse topics that impact our Asian Pacific American communities. I'm your host, Rasha Goel, and today I am so thrilled to be talking to Adhrucia Apana, who is an artist, writer, and the founder of the production company Curiosity Entertainment, which develops and packages film and television, books, and provides music supervision. She has worked with some of the most talented creatives in Hollywood, developing projects with the writers of The Umbrella Academy, Ozark, Ballers, and Entourage. As a producer, she's brought powerful films to life, including the Emmy-nominated The Survivor, Needle in a Timestack, and Capone. But now she's stepping into the director's chair with her feature debut set for festivals in 2026. And Adhrucia is also the host of the podcast Conversation with Curiosity on iHeart Radio, which features behind-the-scenes conversations from the company with writers, directors, actors, authors, and storytellers from all walks of life. It is my pleasure to welcome Adhrucia Apana on Asian Pacific Voices Radio. Adhrucia, thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's my pleasure, Rasha. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's so, of course, I have been watching your journey, and it's always so exciting to see the different projects that you're working on. I'd love to touch upon Curiosity Entertainment in general first. You've developed it into this powerhouse for developing and packaging film and television. What was your vision when you founded the company, and how has that evolved over time?
Oh, wow, Rasha. I started our company 6 months before the pandemic. So this is maybe my 13th, 14th year in film and TV. I don't really do time. I'm really bad at time, but been here for a while. And I had left the last company that I worked with, and I had sold a bunch of treatments and scripts that I wrote to other companies. And then I went and I pitched to financing, and I started a company. And when we originally started the company, I think it's an interesting story to share because it's indicative of how the industry's changed since the pandemic. When we first started the company, I was going to follow a model that I think a lot of production companies follow, where they come in and they co-produce, sometimes co-finance film and television, and then year 2, we were going to develop our originals. And then year 3, we were going to expand into other verticals. And it was just this very cookie cutter model that existed at the height of indie film. And then 6 months later, we had a full slate and a pandemic hit. And so the problem with the pandemic is none of us, you, me, none of us knew how long it was going to go. And so could only make decisions in 3-month increments. You couldn't really decide what does this mean for the next year of our lives, because we didn't know how long it was gonna keep going. And so, after about a year, we started letting some of those films who wanted to go without us, that we had signed to co-produce, to go without us, because we didn't see in the finance side of film and the markets had become very soft, and there wasn't a lot of buying power during the pandemic for pre-sales for films that weren't already made. Films that were made had a great moment. They could get a lot of money for what they were worth. But if you hadn't made the film yet, it was really hard to figure out how we were going to make that money back and both produce and finance. And so we started our development year 2 of the pandemic, just pivoted and started what phase 2 was going to be. And quite frankly, where I always wanted to be. And it was really just a lack of being able to do anything else. We had the time, and we were able to, we had some development money, and we were able to develop things. And so why twiddle my thumbs? Let's get some work done. And we started developing. And then before we knew it, we had almost become a development packaging company within those years. We still had a couple films and TV shows that we were just producing that were left over from before the pandemic. For the most part, we had developed and packaged with really big names, and this is where we wanted to be as a company. So I think that the vision has changed because the industry has changed. We started with one vision, and like every other filmmaker out there, we've all had to deal with the recent changes in the industry and then the strike that followed. And so we are a very great example of how a company and all the companies have had to change during both the pandemic and the strike.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I also think it's fair to say that we're continuously evolving and changing, right? With all the different technological advances that are also coming on into the industry. I know you and I have talked about AI before as well. What's been so fascinating too in watching your journey is you've worked with some incredible talent, from the writers of the Umbrella Academy and Ozark to major feature films. Could you touch upon a little bit about maybe what have been some of your biggest challenges? And then how did you find a way to navigate them?
Sure. When I started in film and TV, I didn't know anyone out here. I didn't know anybody in Hollywood. I didn't come here with a connection or like a foot in the door. I actually had gone to a film program right out of high school. Then I went to college for business. And then I had worked in brand and in advertising. And then I found my way back to film and TV. And I really wanted to be a development producer. And I didn't know anyone. And so I got a lot of mixed messages as to what I was able to do with my mixed background, this mixed business background, and what I would have to basically start over in my career on. And the thing about film is you can read all the books in the world about film and TV, and I can still say with 100% certainty that you will come across a situation that you are not prepared for. So it's not one of those industries where you can like go pick up some books in the library or even take some courses in a film school and then be 100% prepared for it. A lot of it, you have to learn as you're going through the actions, especially because everybody in film and TV doesn't have one way they make film and television. And so I guess the second challenge was then deciding what my point of entry was. When I came back to Los Angeles, I got signed as talent out in LA. And I was at a point in my career where I really wanted to build stability. And so I found myself on that first month when I got signed trying to decide, okay, what auditioning, I got my SAG card when I was like 13. So like, what auditioning is, what that like side is. You're in business through advertising, through brand. Like I understood enough about the intersection of creative businesses and creative art and business and how it kind of works as in a system. And so I sat there and I was trying to think, okay, where is my entry point where I provide a lot of value and it's not the same as everybody else. I'm not one actress on a roster of 5,000 actresses that are being pushed forward. I'm not one writer in a sea of 2,000 writers. And that for me was important because I was stepping into a second career. And so whatever that anxiety was in my head of like, I need to figure this out. I can't just like play again at another career, which is, by the way, totally internal and everyone's allowed to have that anxiety. But in that moment, I wanted a clear picture. So the second was deciding my point of entry. And to anyone who's listening and is trying to figure out a point of entry, it's really with all industries, it's where do you provide the most value? So how can I show up every day and provide value to the people around me so that I can have a job? Because if you're not providing value in a job, then you are the first person who is expendable. And so I decided at that time that learning the finance side of film and TV would make me an exponential creative because then I would understand the business people that I was trying to sell the ideas to. And as someone with a business degree, that made a lot of sense to me. I mean, sure, guys, you're going to hear stories of people who like got lucky and had that one film that got in Sundance and then they got that breakout. But even those people who have those breakout moments, there is a point where as creatives, we have to learn the business. Otherwise, someone else is in charge of our career for the rest of our lives. And so for me, that point of entry was really like learning the business. And that wasn't, again, there's no book. So that was a difficult thing that took many hours in many rooms, asking questions that everyone else was scared to ask and learning how everything worked, taking courses at the Boston Adjunct College out here, like really learning how all of this worked. And then I think that the last challenge for anyone who's listening to this podcast of like getting into this industry is really as a female of color, as a first generation American, was learning how to ask for what I wanted. I think in this industry specifically, this industry is one where everyone kind of has this like dialogue of like, you are so lucky to be in this room.
Mm-hmm.
You're so lucky to have got a title on that movie. You're so lucky to even be part of the conversation. And especially as someone who made it here on my own and came out with nothing, that was something that was playing in the back of my head. And so really learning to whether it's in a contract or what position you want in a film, or whether it's the way you want a set to be run. I have a good friend who did a really big movie, and she ran the set, started every morning with meditations and started every morning with like sound baths. And she just wanted to create this atmosphere on the set as a producer. And as a director, as a producer, a writer, it never occurred to me that I had the right to ask for that. And I listened to her experience, and then I was watching my experience on a film I was on at that time, where basically I was getting run into the ground and doing all the work and not having an enjoyable time. And I realized that I had the right at the beginning when I'd started that project to set that tone and ask for what I wanted. And so I think the third biggest challenge is just really learning how to ask for what I wanted, and that is not something that that I was not allowed to do. And I want to say that with like a little bit, I say hesitated there because you do have to be bringing value and have something real that you're doing to ask for what you want. Like it's not
Right.
a privileged moment where you just get to say like, I'm the director of this film. I want whatever. It's a collaboration. Films are a collaboration. But I think just learning to not have that mindset of, I'm so thankful that I'm here, and more a mindset of like, no, I'm in charge of this show, or I'm in charge of this vision, or this is my role as a writer, this is my role as an actor, this is my role, whatever that role is, really like being able to own it. That was a big challenge.
I think that's such a great point you bring up, Adhrucia. And I want to tag along on that and just say, I think also, I've had this conversation with other creatives too, as Asian Americans too, right? We come from this community that necessarily doesn't voice our opinion. I think now we're starting to do that more, but overall, we're in these communities that are very soft. And it takes a minute to really accept what your position is, what you're doing, and to say, it's okay to ask.
Mm-hmm.
I know even through my own personal experiences, yeah, that many times I wouldn't ask because I was worried, and in that thinking of, oh well, I'm just grateful to be here. And now I think the shift with the experience too has been, I'm grateful, but I'm worthy and I deserve to be here, and I know I'm bringing something to the table, and let me not quiet my voice. Obviously, being respectful, this is not to create like a conflicting situation, but this is more of, voicing our thoughts and our opinions. I'm glad you brought that up. Was there, I am thinking too, fear. Were there ever moments of fear that you may have had, and how did you conquer those?
I think growing up is overcoming fear, right? So anybody who tells you there aren't moments of fear is completely lying. That is the process of growing up. Our biggest enemy is fear, right? Fear is the thing that stops you from asking, you know, the cute guy at the bar for his number, and fear is the thing that stops you from, you know, lifting a little higher weight set in the gym. And fear is the thing that sometimes makes you define yourself in one way so that you're afraid to go for something you really want. And so I think for me, I was lucky early on in life that I had a couple physical injuries, and they really helped me overcome the concept of fear, and I was able to apply some of those things to my career, um, and learn when I was coming up against fear and see my way around it. But I think that the right now the industry specifically, for people who are coming in, it's not an industry where you have a lot of times a sure paycheck. It's not an industry where you have a lot of times a large community around you. It's not an industry, even though there's lots of communities and they're beautiful, just meaning like someone standing next to you every day and telling you, this is how to do it. This is the way we do it. And so I think that like all those are fear triggers for many, many people. I think the most important thing with fear is to understand that that's all internal. None of it actually exists. It all exists just within you. And you have the ability to overcome any of it. You gotta work with your mind and realize that it's not real.
I love that. Thank you. And moving past the mind and our limitations, you're now co-producing and co-writing Goodman. Can you share a little bit about what inspired this story and what audiences can expect from this film?
Yeah, our company now has, I think, 12 active projects, and there's a lot of other people working on them. Don't worry, it's not just me. But the Goodman was a piece that I've co-written now, that a screenplay that's going to go in production third quarter this year, and I love stories about the everyday man overcoming insane obstacles. I think that those stories really encourage people um, to get off the ground and do something exponentially more than they would have believed they could do. And Goodman was a story like this. It's about a lawyer during the 2008 auto bailouts a car salesman during the 2008 auto bailouts who actually ended up fighting his own legal case because he was wronged during the bailouts. He became a lawyer over the time. And for me, what was really interesting about this story is that you have this Charlie and I co-wrote it together, Charlie, my writing partner, and you had this beautiful setting of the 2008 post-economic, uh, let's call it depression, and the bailouts, and this story about this one guy who thought he could do anything. And there was a opportunity there to make that story even more universal. And so we brought in a mirror character that is actually like a woman of color who's trying to become a filmmaker, to show how universal his story of finding his own voice and stepping up and standing up for himself is to any background, any age, any ethnicity. And we love to do that with our stories. We love to bring in new perspectives so that a story doesn't just belong to like one group, but we can show the universal elements behind, I almost made up a word, the universal elements behind the story and how, these human things actually affect us all.
We welcome the making up of new words here, by the way. No, but you're right. And I think we are at a time where we really need that universality, right? I don't know.
Universality.
Is that a word, or did I just make that up?
I made it up, I think.
Well, we're making up these words today. But I think that whole connection to humanity and that oneness of who we are. I love what you've been doing with the branding. Now, you also have your own podcast, Conversation with Curiosity. Tell me a little bit more about this. How did this come up? What inspires you to start the podcast?
I really love screenwriting and music and the development process and the finding of stories and surrounding myself with artists who are also just finding unique stories. I love the storytelling process. And so, during the strike, we really were like, how can we help be a microphone to so many of the great artists we're working with that are part of the Curiosity community, that come through our studio doors and have conversations with us about projects, about what they're working on, what we're working on, with a storytelling lens. And that's what it was kind of born out of. I did a show on Clubhouse during the pandemic that was super popular called Story Makers. And people really loved that kind of long format storytelling and understanding behind a creative and their decisions and why they made them and their path and how they got there. And so this was an extension of that, and now it's being redistributed as Conversations with Curiosity with multiple hosts underneath it, not just myself. And we're going to talk about the books that we're making, about the book business. We're talking about the music that we're making, the music business. We're talking about the films and the TV we're making. And we're a platform for just finding great storytellers out there and highlighting them, because filmmaking to me is about community. I grew up on stage as a theater kid, and what I loved about theater was the community and that moment at the wrap party when you guys all worked together so hard and you created something. And when I came to Los Angeles, there's some of that missing because everything's kind of spread out. And so when we built this company, we really wanted to just build it around those ideals. The idea that like we're in this for all artists. We're not just in it like for ourselves. We want to tell stories that light you up from the inside, and we want to help share your stories because we're fans of film first and foremost.
Adhrucia, what don't you do?
Well, most theater kids are they act, they sing, they dance, and so it's kind of ingrained within us to look at film and TV from like a holistic standpoint. And I think that the company is like a reflection of that.
And we've had these conversations too before about building community and how pivotal that is, especially in this time. So it's been so beautiful to see that is something that you take pride in, and that's something what you stand for and is a reflection of what you're creating and how you're bringing people together. So if people did, you said you're always covering new storytellers. If somebody did want to reach out and send material to you, is that a possibility, and how would they do that?
Yeah, right now I think the focus is going to be talking to authors, to different filmmakers from different areas of film, like editors, sound mixers, individuals who we did one of the writers of Elemental last season. And so individuals who are working on projects right now that we just find exciting and kind of fit our curiosity theme. Curiosity ourselves, we create stories that kind of celebrate the transformative power and wonder and exploration of characters. Like their narrative features on characters who are driven by this like innate desire to question and discover and to grow beyond like their familiar surroundings. And so we're always drawn to being fanboys of those type of stories as well, and to outreach to those type of individuals who are also championing that positive storytelling vibe. We will start the next season. We'll distribute this season in the next month, and then we'll start the next season with a new distributor. So hold on to those stories for a second.
And as far as aspiring writers and producers, filmmakers, what piece of advice would you offer to them?
I think I would just give them the confidence of understanding that like nobody 100% knows what they're doing. So just take your swing and create something, but don't do it with blinders on. Ask questions. Like ask questions, figure out the way things are made, why they're made the way they are. I think it's that curiosity that will make you a better filmmaker, better writer, better producer. And I think, in a perfect world, I actually I hate producing. It's my least favorite of all the different roles. Just because, the way that I process things in the world, producers are amazing talents that love like structure and love like schedules and love to like analyze, and the charts should be their thing, right? Charts and structure and schedules. And I'm very good at those, but they're not my biggest joy. I wish though that all directors, writers, producers, and actors had to produce a film before they made their first film, because I
Yeah.
do think that one of the things that's pushed me ahead in my career is I had a teacher in college that said you have to know all the parts of the whole to know the whole. And so when I was sitting there and trying to decide what my way in was, part of it was, okay, this is the one piece I don't understand yet. And because of that, it will hold me back. And so I do encourage anyone who's starting out not to own this dialogue of, I am a director. And so the producer worries about that. The writer worries about that. I am an actor. The director worries about that. The producer worries about that. I am a producer. Whatever these like things are, I think as an industry, we've kind of been pitted against each other. And I see that a lot on on the productions that I work in. And I think that we have to remember this is supposed to be a collaboration. And the more I understand about your job and what you're doing on this production, the better that production's going to be.
Absolutely. And I think we're also in a time period too where you just can't sit and hold on to one title and just be a perfectionist in that particular craft, right? I think the way the industry's been changing and navigating, you kind of almost have to be able to be prepared to wear different hats. We have just a couple minutes left here, and I'm excited for your directorial debut in 2026. You've got multiple projects on your slate, but what are you most excited for when it comes to you and to Curiosity Entertainment in the upcoming year?
Oh, I'm just so excited that our originals, we had to hold everything during the strike. So I'm so excited that our original stories are finally going to reach the world. It's lovely, a lot of the collaborations we've done, but these original stories are just my heart and soul, and I'm so excited for them. I'm so excited to be working on that directorial debut and to be writing and to be working, um, you know, on the creative day in, day out. It just fills my soul in so many ways. And for the company, I'm so excited that we've been able to grow these multiple verticals during those 2 down years, and that we've created just an expert team, and they're so amazing at what they do. I think that the future of film and TV for all of us is to take it one step at a time, because there's a lot of changes happening. So for the company, a lot of it is just learning how to navigate the extreme changes that these 2 disasters created for our industry. And I'm a glass half full girl, so everyone else is gonna be very pessimistic about those changes, but I think that when there's change and there's disruption, there's opportunity. And so I encourage anyone who's listening to remember that, and to not subscribe to whatever the chat threads are that are talking about how horrible everything is,
Or
and
the
how all the business
naysayers?
is leaving, and how
Yeah.
you create your reality. And I hope for you that the reality you create is one of hope and opportunity, because never before in the history of all times were you able to create a movie and put it out on something like YouTube and gain an audience all on your own. And people look at it and say, it's a different part of the industry that's not really making whatever it is. Like, that is all noise. If you wanted to make a story and put it out for people to love, which is the core purpose and passion of a filmmaker or a storyteller, then this world is great.
Well, those are some inspiring words to leave everybody with, and very, very powerful. All right, Adhrucia, well, we want to have some fun with you. So we are going to do this lightning round with some quick questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Coffee, black, bulletproof.
And if you had to describe your career in a movie title, what would it be?
Path less traveled.
And describe an actor or actress that you would love to work with.
Oh, it was Edward Norton for ages. I love him. I got a chance to meet him, but now I think I want to work with Cynthia Erivo again. Just the energy she brings into her room. I got to work with her as an executive producer, but I would love to work with her as an actor, director, just be in that energy.
And if you weren't doing film, what else would you be doing?
If I wasn't doing film, what else would I be doing? I don't have a plan B.
I love it. And if you could have dinner with one person who's living or dead, who would that be?
An Atlantean. I want a human from Atlantis in front of me to tell me what was real and what wasn't. I got to go back in history, like time travel. Atlantean, 100%.
I love it. Take me back with you on that.
I will.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And is there a website or a social media handle that people can connect or follow you on?
Yeah, you can find me at Adhrucia, ADHRUCIA. That's on all platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the above. And the company is at Curiosity ENT. And on YouTube, it is under Curiosity Storyteller Studio.
Thank you so much, Adhrucia. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest, Adhrucia Apana, for joining me on today's show from Curiosity Entertainment. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. And I'd also love to thank our viewers and our listeners. And if you have any suggestions, please do send them our way, whether it's regarding guests or topics. And don't forget to subscribe to our program on your favorite podcast platform, or follow us actually on Facebook, X, Instagram, and of course our YouTube channel. And a reminder, Asian Pacific Voices Radio is produced by Asian Culture and Media Alliance, a nonprofit that empowers the Asian Pacific American communities with a voice through media arts. If you'd like to support our program or learn more about it, please do visit us at AsianPacificVoicesRadio.com. Once again, I'm Rasha Goel. Thank you so much for joining me on this thought-provoking and inspiring conversation and joining us on Asian Pacific Voices Radio. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you, guys.